house. I want more in our family WhatsApp group. Jessica is 36 years old and still renting an apartment. Some people simply never grow up. Seconds later, my brother replied with 3 laughing emojis. Send my Aunt Rose. Maybe she'll find a nice husband someday and finally settle down. And finally, my younger sister added,
Stop embarrassing her. She's doing her best.
That one hurt the most. I stared at my phone while sitting at my kitchen table, reading every message twice.
Hello.
The worst part wasn't that they were insulting me. It was that none of them thought they were doing anything wrong. My name is Jessica Monroe. I'm 36 years old, and for most of my life, I've been my family's biggest disappointment. At least, that's what they believed. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I work as a residential property analyst for a real estate consulting firm. It isn't the kind of job that impresses people at family dinners. Nobody claps when I explain zoning regulations or investment strategies. Nobody posts about it on social media. Meanwhile, my younger sister, Amanda, married a successful dentist 2 years ago. They bought a beautiful house in one of the nicest neighborhoods in town. Every family gathering somehow became a celebration of Amanda's success. Growing up, Amanda was always the one they praised. She was outgoing, stylish, and loved being the center of attention. I was quieter. I liked books, numbers, and making careful decisions. While she spent money decorating her home, I spent years studying real estate markets and building my career. The truth is, I wasn't rich or glamorous. I drove a 6-year-old SUV, I lived in a modest apartment downtown, I bought clothes on sale and rarely posted anything on social media. To my family, all of that added up to one thing: failure. What they never understood was that appearances can be incredibly misleading. When people hear the word renting, they immediately assume you're struggling financially. My family certainly did. They treated renting like it was some kind of personal flaw. They never asked why I rented. They never cared enough to find out. 3 years ago, I made a decision that changed my life. Instead of buying my own home immediately, I chose to invest my money strategically. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't exciting, but it was working. My family didn't know any of that because I learned a long time ago that sharing good news with them only invited criticism or competition. If I received a promotion at work, someone else's accomplishment was suddenly more impressive. If I mentioned saving money, Amanda would talk about her expensive vacation. If I bought myself something nice, my mother would remind everyone that Amanda had bought something nicer. Eventually, I stopped sharing altogether. My silence became their evidence that I had nothing worth talking about. The WhatsApp messages continued throughout the afternoon. My mom wrote, "Amanda and Michael are hosting Sunday dinner this week. Jessica, don't feel pressured to bring anything expensive." I almost laughed when I read that. My cousin replied, "I'll bring dessert." My aunt wrote, "Jessica can bring paper plates. Those are affordable." Everyone thought it was hilarious. I wanted to respond, I really did. But over the years, I learned that arguing with people who have already decided who you are is usually a waste of energy. Instead, I put my phone down and returned to reviewing property reports for work. An hour later, my best friend Melissa called me. "Please tell me you left that family group chat," she said before I could even say hello. "Good afternoon to you too," I laughed. "I'm serious, Jess. Your mother is impossible." Melissa and I met in college almost 15 years ago. She's one of the few people who knows everything about my financial situation and my investments. "Honestly," I said, "I'm more surprised than upset at this point. You shouldn't be used to being treated like that." "Maybe not, but I am." There was a pause before she asked the question she always asks. "Why don't you tell them?"
Tell them what?
"Everything." I smiled because she already knew the answer. "Because I don't owe anyone an explanation." Melissa sighed dramatically. "One day, Jessica Monroe, they're going to discover who you really are, and I hope I'm there to watch their faces." "So do I laughed. Sunday dinner arrived sooner than I expected. Amanda's house was exactly what you'd imagine from her social media posts. Everything was perfectly decorated. Fresh flowers sat on the dining table, Family photos lined the walls. As soon as I walked through the door, my mother hugged Amanda and barely acknowledged me. "Oh good," she said. "Jessica made it." "Hi, Mom." Amanda smiled when she saw me. "Jessica, we weren't sure if you'd come after all the teasing online." Funny, I didn't remember laughing. "Wouldn't miss it," I said. Dinner hadn't even started before the comparisons began. "Amanda just finished renovating her kitchen," my mother announced proudly. "It only cost $28,000. "That's wonderful," I said sincerely. My aunt looked at me and smiled sympathetically. "Jessica, when are you planning to buy your first home?" There it was, the question I received at nearly every family gathering. "I'm happy with where I am right now." My brother laughed. Translation: never. The entire table chuckled. "You know," my mother continued, "at your age, I had already raised 2 children and owned a house. Sometimes I worry you've settled for less." I smiled politely. "I'm doing just fine, Mom." Amanda shook her head. "Jessica, we're only saying this because we love you. You need to think bigger." "Actually," I said, "I spend most of my time thinking about real estate." That made everyone laugh even harder. "Oh, that's adorable," my aunt said. "Working around houses isn't the same as owning one." I took a sip of water and reminded myself to stay calm. Then came the moment that almost made me leave. My mother stood up to make a toast. "To Amanda," she said proudly, "the daughter who showed us what success looks like." Everyone raised their glasses. Then she looked directly at me. "And to Jessica. It's never too late to figure things out." The room went silent for a second before nervous laughter filled the space. I cannot explain how humiliating it feels when your own mother publicly announces that you're her disappointment. 36 years old, financially independent, successful in my career, and somehow reduced to a cautionary example during Sunday dinner. I smiled anyway, because what none of them knew was that my phone had been buzzing quietly in my purse throughout the entire meal. An email had just arrived from my firm's senior partner regarding the finalized valuation report of my real estate investment portfolio. And when I opened it later that night, everything was about to change. They thought they knew exactly who Jessica Monroe was. They were wrong. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because I had trouble sleeping, because I knew something important was waiting for me. For years, I had ignored the comments, the comparisons, and the constant reminders that my family believed I wasn't successful enough. I had convinced myself that their opinions didn't matter. But seeing those words from my own mother in the family WhatsApp group was different. Some people simply never grow up. I kept hearing that sentence in my head. I made coffee, opened my laptop, and clicked on the email I had received during Sunday dinner. The subject line read, "Final Property Portfolio Valuation Report Completed." I took a deep breath before opening it. The report contained everything my family never knew. The investment properties I had quietly purchased over the years. The partnerships I had built. The returns I had earned. The professional evaluations from licensed experts. I wasn't trying to become wealthy to impress anyone. I was building security. A future. A life that belonged to me. I looked through the pages carefully. The numbers were exactly what I expected. Years of patience had paid off. But instead of feeling excited, I felt something else. Relief. Because for the first time, I had proof that I wasn't the person they described. I closed my laptop and went to work. I decided that I wasn't going to send screenshots to my family. I wasn't going to write a long message explaining myself. I had spent enough years trying to convince people who never wanted to understand. But life has a strange way of creating moments where the truth appears without being invited. And that moment came 3 weeks later. It started when my mother called me. "Jessica, are you busy?" I looked at my computer screen filled with property analysis reports.
I'm working, Mom. What's going on?
I need your opinion on something that surprised me. My mother rarely asked for my opinion.
What kind of opinion?
There was a pause. Then she said, "It's about the family vacation property." I leaned back in my chair. My parents owned a small lake house about 2 hours outside the city. It had been in our family for almost 20 years. Okay, what about it? We're thinking about making some changes. What kind of changes? Another pause. Your sister and Michael have been talking about using it more. They have children now, and they need space. I immediately understood. They were considering giving Amanda more control over the property. Mom, what does that mean? It means we're thinking practically. That phrase always worried me. In my family, thinking practically usually meant someone had already made a decision. I just want to understand. My mother sighed. Jessica, don't take this personally. Those words were never followed by anything good. We just think Amanda would get more use out of it. I stared out my office window. So you're saying she should have more control because she has a bigger house? That's not what I said. But that's what you're implying. My mother became defensive. You always make everything about being treated unfairly. I almost laughed. The person who had spent years comparing me to my sister was telling me I was imagining things. I'm not trying to fight, Mom. I just want to understand why nobody asked me before making plans about a family property. You don't even own a home, Jessica. Amanda understands these things better. That sentence stayed with me. Not because it surprised me. Because it confirmed everything. My mother didn't judge my knowledge. She judged my appearance. She had no idea that I spent my entire career analyzing properties, studying markets, and helping investors make decisions worth millions of dollars. She just saw a daughter who rented an apartment. That was all. Okay, I said quietly. Are you upset? No. It wasn't exactly true. But I was done giving them the emotional reaction they expected. Have a good day, Mom. I ended the call. For the first time in years, I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I felt clear. A few days later, my sister posted pictures in the family WhatsApp group. The caption said, "Can't wait for all the amazing memories we'll make at the lake house." I stared at the photos. She was standing beside my parents, holding a folder. A folder I recognized. Property documents. Then my brother commented, "Finally making the right decision." My mother replied, "Some people understand responsibility better than others." I knew exactly who that was aimed at. Me. Then came the message that crossed a line. My sister wrote, "Jessica, maybe you should let people who understand real estate handle these things." I read it 3 times. The irony was almost unbelievable. The one person in my family who actually worked with real estate every day was the person they trusted the least. I put my phone down. But this time, I didn't feel defeated. Because what they didn't know was that I had already reviewed the property history. And I had noticed something nobody else had. A problem hidden inside the documents. Something that could change everything. The next morning, I called someone who had known my family for decades. Someone who understood exactly how they operated. Her name was Evelyn Carter. And she was about to help me reveal the truth they never expected. I hadn't spoken to Evelyn Carter in almost 6 months, but she was the first person I thought of. Evelyn wasn't just a professional connection. She was the person who believed in me before anyone else did. I met her when I was 28 years old and working as a junior assistant at a small real estate company. At the time, I was the youngest person in the office, and I spent most days organizing files, reviewing documents, and doing the work nobody else wanted. Most people saw me as someone who was simply following instructions. Evelyn saw something different. "You notice details other people miss," she told me during my first year. I laughed when she said that. I just don't like making mistakes. She smiled. That's exactly why you'll go far. Over the years, she became my mentor. She taught me how to analyze properties, understand contracts, and recognize problems hidden inside paperwork. So when I called her that morning, she immediately knew something was wrong. Jessica, I wasn't expecting your call. Is everything okay? I looked at the property documents sitting on my desk. I need you to look at something Hamtrans. I'm at the Narim. Damnahum. Daram. Zama. Sandanrim.
Heading the first effective. That's your no right the assortment. To finally come down. Okay. Just too funny. Was ist jetzt denn mal was mit Leute? Where? I got the call. For 12 years. I've life. Was it? I've missed. I didn't feel angry. I'm feeling. A few days later, my sister posted pictures in the family WhatsApp group. The caption said, "Can't wait for all the amazing memories we make at the lake house." I stared at the photos. She was standing beside my parents, holding the folder. The folder I recognized. Property documents. Finally making the right decision. My mother replied, "Some people understand responsibility better than others." I knew exactly who that was aimed at. Me. Then came the message that crossed the line. My sister wrote, "Jessica, maybe you should let people who understand real estate handle these things." I read it 3 times. The irony was almost unbelievable. The one person in my family who actually worked with real estate every day was the person they trusted the least. I put my phone down, but this time I didn't feel defeated. Because what they didn't know was that I had already reviewed the property history. And I had noticed something nobody else had. A problem hidden inside the documents. Something that could change everything. The next morning I called someone who had known my family for decades. Someone who understood exactly how they operated. Her name was Evelyn Carter. And she was about to help me reveal the truth they never expected. I hadn't spoken to Evelyn Carter in almost 6 months. But she was the first person I thought of. Evelyn wasn't just a professional connection. She was the person who believed in me before anyone else did. I met her when I was 28 years old and working as a junior assistant at a small real estate company. At the time, I was the youngest person in the office, and I spent most days organizing files, reviewing documents, and doing the work nobody else wanted. Most people saw me as someone who was simply following instructions. Evelyn saw something different. You notice details other people miss. She told me during my first year. I laughed when she said that. I just don't like making mistakes. She smiled. That's exactly why you'll go far. Over the years, she became my mentor. She taught me how to analyze properties, understand contracts, and recognize problems hidden inside paperwork. So when I called her that morning, she immediately knew something was wrong. "Jessica, I wasn't expecting your call. Is everything okay?" I looked at the property documents sitting on my desk. "I need you to look at something work-related. Family-related." There was a pause. Then she said, Send it to me. I forwarded the documents from my parents' lake house. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Jessica. Her voice sounded serious. How long have you known about this property? Since I was a child. Why? Because there is something very important here. I sat up straight. What? Your parents aren't just transferring control of the property. They're changing ownership rights. I felt a cold feeling in my stomach. What does that mean? It means someone convinced them to sign documents they may not fully understand. I looked back at the paperwork. The signatures. The dates. The changes. Everything suddenly made sense. My family thought they were making a simple decision. They didn't realize they were creating a legal problem. Could this hurt them? I asked. It could create serious complications. I closed my eyes. Despite everything they had done, they were still my parents. I didn't want revenge. I wanted them to understand. But before I could decide what to do, another message appeared in the family WhatsApp group. My mother. Everyone please congratulate Amanda and Michael. They are officially helping manage the lake property. Then my sister added. Some people are naturally better with important responsibilities. Everyone reacted with hearts. Everyone except me. I stared at the screen. For years I had stayed quiet because I didn't want conflict. But silence had allowed them to create a false story about me. A story where I was incapable. A story where I needed help. A story where Amanda was the responsible one. That wasn't going to continue. The following weekend, my parents hosted a family gathering at their home. They wanted to celebrate the new arrangement. Everyone was invited. Everyone except apparently my opinion. When I arrived, I could already hear my sister talking about the lake house. We're thinking of renovating the kitchen first, Amanda said. My brother smiled. Good. Dad's old design choices were terrible. My mother laughed.
Then she saw me.
No. Oh, she figured it says. Gay.
Husband.
Should I be the game? What she could. Sit.
She'd hear ship in it then.
Full from high.
She looked. Skilhaus.
Okay.
Den är så bra. Vad är det man inte måste se? Because of the sculpture.
Right.
Okay.
Yes. To the misnamed. For once, I wasn't there to defend myself. I was there because the truth needed a place to appear. During dinner, Amanda began showing everyone her plans. She opened a folder. This is what we're going to do. I looked at the papers. Then I noticed something. The same mistake Evelyn had found. A transfer clause that could create a major ownership issue. My mother noticed me looking.
What? Can I ask where these documents came from?
Amanda smiled. Why? Just curious. My brother laughed. Here we go. What? You always think you know better. The room became quiet. My mother shook her head. Jessica, please don't turn this into another situation where you feel left out. That sentence almost made me laugh. They had spent weeks making decisions without me, and somehow I was the problem for noticing. Don't feel left out. My mother says. I looked around the table. Everyone was waiting for me to argue. Instead, I calmly said, I'm concerned because these documents could create a legal problem. Amanda rolled her eyes. Based on what? Your apartment experience? The room laughed. Again. But this time I didn't feel embarrassed, because Evelyn was sitting quietly beside me. I hadn't invited her to embarrass my family. I invited her because I knew emotions would get in the way. Facts wouldn't. My mother looked at Evelyn. And who is this? Evelyn smiled politely. Someone who reviewed the documents. My brother crossed his arms. Are you a lawyer? No. Then why should we listen? Evelyn opened her folder. Because I have worked in real estate law and investment consulting for over 30 years. The room became quieter. She placed several papers on the table. Then she looked at my parents. You should know that the agreement you're preparing to sign does not do what you think it does. My mother picked up the document. What are you saying? Evelyn explained everything. The misunderstanding. The risks. The mistakes. The assumptions. Nobody laughed anymore. Nobody made jokes. For the first time, they were listening. But I wasn't finished, because there was something else they needed to see. I opened my laptop.
I want to show you something.
Amanda looked nervous. What is that? I turned the screen toward them. The first page was my professional property valuation report. The same report I received after dinner, weeks earlier. The room went completely silent. My mother stared at the numbers. What is this? My investment portfolio. My brother frowned. Your what?
I've been investing in real estate for years.
Amanda looked confused. But you rent? I nodded. Yes. Because renting my home and investing my money were two separate decisions. Nobody spoke. I continued. I didn't need a big house to prove I was successful. My mother looked at me. Why didn't you tell us? I looked around the table. I first was thought about that question. The answer was painful. Because every time I shared something good, you compared it to Amanda. Nobody argued? Because everyone knew it was true. I showed them the report. The properties. The returns. The years of work. Not because I wanted them to worship me. Because I wanted them to stop seeing me as someone who failed. My mother looked down. I didn't know. No, Mom. You didn't ask. That sentence hurt more than any insult. Because it was the truth. A few weeks later, things changed. My parents corrected the property documents. Amanda apologized, although it took time. My brother stopped making jokes about my career. And my mother finally admitted something I never thought I would hear. I was so focused on what you didn't show us that I never noticed what you built. I accepted the apology. But I also changed. I stopped chasing approval from people who only valued what they could see. I bought my own home when the time was right. Not because my family finally believed in me. Because I believed in myself. For years, they thought my quiet life meant I had nothing. They were wrong. Sometimes the person everyone overlooks is the one who's been building the strongest foundation all along. If you've ever been judged because people assumed they knew your financial situation, share your story in the comments below. Subscribe if you've ever been underestimated by your own family. Your success doesn't need to be loud to be real. Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Your story has power. If you felt a connection to mine, please subscribe and share your journey in the comments. Every hype you give this video helps empower someone else. Thank you for being here and for listening.